Hello, Trombone Internet. This is Chris Van Hoff, assistant to the regional manager of the International Trombone Festival. We at the festival, of course, are huge fans of the pod, and we are really excited to invite you to attend this year's 2024 International Trombone Festival at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. Dave Begnosh is our host. We have the world premiere of a brand new double concerto for trombone and piano with the Fort Worth Symphony. We have the American Brass Quintet. We have late night jazz featuring a Latin jam session. Like, everything is happening. All the cast will be there. It's the best hang in the world, and we hope to see you there. You can register for the festival still online at www.internationaltrombonefestival.com, and it's happening the last week of May. So go register. We'll see you in Texas.
It was
my favorite one that I ever hosted. That was my favorite one.
Yeah, you did a great job, but you always do a great job. But that one, I mean, that was my first one going to as a professional. Yeah, I won't say which one's my least favorite, but yeah, we'll leave it there.
We all know it was Nashville, 1973.
Of course.
We don't talk about that year.
Yeah, we don't speak about Nashville on this podcast.
Yeah, we don't discuss the incident.
Exactly.
It is the fifth position. Happy New Year. Welcome in. It is a podcast of a trombone podcast about something. I'm here with my friend.
It's a podcastception.
Yeah, it's an inception of a trombone podcast. You'll get it after like the 50th episode, so just keep listening. I am here with my friend Nicholas Schwartz, and we have a special guest today, Nicholas.
Who might that be?
Our favorite Dutch friend, Mr. Chris Van Hoff, professor of trombone at Ball State University, Emerald Brass Quintet, and how many of you might know him, the assistant manager of the International Trombone Festival, which, first of all, I think that title doesn't befit like the prestige and the amount of work you have to do. That just sounds like a throwaway, like, oh, he's there sometimes and does stuff. You need like a much more like prestigious like title.
Yeah, well, it's because we had the two staff. We had Karen Marston as the director and Justin Cook was the manager. And then I joined on, and so we just call me the assistant manager. But yeah,
assistant
I think
to the regional manager.
That's how I usually introduce myself. But I think like, Grand Poobah, like cruise director, I don't know, like something like that I think would maybe suit.
Director of
better.
Operations.
Yeah.
Something.
Or it could be like, what if the title stays the same, but you add like
that.
Another title? So it's assistant. What is it? Assistant director of ITF.
Assistant manager.
His highest chic, Dr. Christopher Van Hoff.
Or there's this website that creates academic job titles, so I could just kind of go for that. Like instead of the vice provost over there, I could be like the assistant manager of people and culture and community synergy or something like that.
Seriously, I mean that's the best part about having like a job. You can really make the title just whatever.
So yeah. Along those lines, the festival I play every summer in Lake Tahoe, like in the book, the playbill, whatever you want to call it, they have the whole orchestra listed and everyone has a bio and you can put whatever you want. And our tuba player, who's also the tuba player I sit next to in the ballet, Dan Peck, everyone else's bio is like, plays in this orchestra, soloed here, this, right. And Dan puts, tuba player at Coney Island Zombie Fest burlesque show.
And he probably did that.
Perfect.
Right?
And he did, yeah. He's
not
like,
lying.
It's not a lie. I did do that.
Yeah.
But it was
I've always wanted to include in my bio, like, here's what people are saying about Chris Van Hoff.
You should.
You sure played a hell of a lot of notes, Jay Friedman. A-, John Marcellus. Like, those kinds of things I think would really... That'd really fly.
Yeah.
Thank you, the United States Coast Guard Band Audition Committee.
I love that. No, more people should do that because I used to, my job when I was at the Mannes College of Music, where Nick is a professor now, I used to, my student job was in the concert office and I'd be writing bios and programs for everybody. And bios are just so formulaic and everyone writes the same cliches. And it's just like anytime you do something creative like that, it's always just like you get to know your personality right away.
Praised for their beautiful sound, celebrated, touted, all sorts of.
One of the best of his generation.
Yeah. Groundbreaking artist. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. We got to have like the Larry David bio, like pretty good. Just leave it at that.
Did I tell you my graduate recital I had at Manus? I had like a tuba player in between every piece, like play Curb Your Enthusiasm segues, and he would just like poke his head out the door and just go bum 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 bum. Another one was the bum 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 bum. And like 3 people got it, but I was loving it.
It doesn't matter. We do this for ourselves. It's not about the audience, so that's fine.
Yes, that's true. That's actually true. Well, Chris, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I don't know why you're wasting your time with me, but I'm happy to be here.
Please, it was just a matter of time. You're a radio professional.
I did work in public radio for 3 years. Yes, it's true. WXXI Classical 91.5 in Rochester, New York.
Can you give us like a typical like coming back from like a Tchaikovsky symphony, like how you?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. So
you're not nearly closely mic'd enough, though. That's the problem.
I know you got to get like, I'm a nasal tenor, so I really need the help of the public radio mic. But like
that was the Oslo Philharmonic.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. That was Maurice Jansons conducting the Moose Shoot Symphony of Montana, Tchaikovsky's 4th Symphony. Coming up later, we have music of Leo Delibes, and now news from National Public Radio.
Ooh.
Like that.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
That was adorable, actually.
I never expected to have that job. I kind of fell into it after an internship. This is wild. When I was like 5 years old, a little teeny tyke, growing up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I would go to Mrs. Vriesinga's house every day for like daycare, and then my mom would, she would go to work. And there was another kid there who was like my little toddler buddy. His name was Dirk. And man, I feel really bad. I forgot his name, but another Dutch boy like me, and
Von something,
and like it was something like that. And so I'm like an NPR addict still. So I'm listening to NPR one day, and I hear this report from like sometimes a local host will get on the national show. So there was one from Portland, Oregon, and they're like, that was Dirk Vanderhart from Portland Public Radio. I was like, holy crap, that's the kid.
No kidding.
It turns out it's true. Yeah. So like in Mrs. Vriesinga's house, there were 2 future NPR people.
That's huge.
Me and Dirk. If you ain't Dutch, you ain't much.
So Mrs. What's her name? Mrs.
Vriesinga.
Vriesinga was basically the Nadia Boulanger of future NPR hosts.
Of West Michigan NPR hosts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the drills she had you do.
It was intense, man.
Well, Chris, you'll appreciate this being from the Dutch country out there in West Michigan. My sister went to Hope College, which is in Holland, Michigan, for people don't know. And by the name, you could imagine there's a lot of Dutch influence in the town and in the school. And when my sister graduated, they announced everyone who's graduating, walking across the stage, all that stuff. And, flying through the alphabet. And then we get to the V's.
It's like a million.
Hung out there for a good while.
Yep. Yeah, that's the way we roll. We like to alphabetically speaking, at least the Dutch, we like to maintain a sense of suspense. So it's been serving us well for centuries.
I used to have a complex about that growing up. Like I was so jealous of kids with A last names because they got to sit in the front. I don't know what it was, and I was always last. I'd sit in the back. I was obsessed with looking up in the phone book of like who has like the very first name, and it was a last name of Odd, like AAD. And then one day there was a kid in my class with that last name, and he was like the biggest celebrity I had ever met in elementary school.
That's immediate elementary school fame. You're front of the line.
I keep trying to find some random story from my childhood Nick hasn't heard yet, so that was a new one.
That's a new one.
Insight into my psyche. So, Nick, we do have some news.
We do.
The 11th Third Coast Trombone Retreat. This is actually breaking news. We've had a soft launch on our website, but it will be June 4th through 10th, 2024. And our special guest artists this year will be Peter Steiner and Constanza, as well as famous international soloist Peter Steiner, who we all love. We've interviewed earlier, and new principal trombonist of the Cleveland Orchestra, Brian Wendell. How about that?
That is it.
How about that?
That is an A-OK lineup.
And the deadline is, we have an early deadline, save a little money, March 15th. And April 1st is the final deadline. Find all the information you need to know at tromboneretreat.com. Are you going to come hang out again, Chris?
You know, I pulled out my calendar immediately because ITF is done on June 1st
it's the week after.
Year. Yeah. And yours is, and it's perfect because, the plan is, because my kids are going to be in Grand Rapids with my sister. While Andrea, because my wife is in her last year as the ITF Youth Workshop Director.
Wife.
So we're both down there. So we're going to fly back to Grand Rapids on that Sunday.
There you go.
So I want to come hang.
And I know there's nothing more you want to do after running a trombone festival than coming in and hanging out at a trombone festival.
Yeah, but I don't have to run it.
Exactly.
It's weird. Like me and Jay and Karen on the staff, we don't hear much trombone at all during the festival. Like
you hear it all around, but just not performances.
You don't listen. Yeah, right. We're not actually consuming it. Yeah, our festivals are usually alone at our houses, watching the videos.
You're you trust that it's actually happening, but you don't know. It's like a tree falling in the woods.
But yeah, no, I'll hang for sure. Let's do it.
Cool, awesome. You are invited.
And I'll give the endorsement and say that everybody should apply, because what you all do, I think, is truly unique and special.
I really appreciate it.
And if I was a student,
thank you.
I would want to go for sure. Yeah, there's nothing like that out there in the world. So, yeah.
And a new brewery pops up every year we go there, I feel like.
Yeah.
Which is why
and the existing ones get better and better.
Yeah. Beer and trombone, best friends.
So, question, pop culture, #pop culture. Did you guys see the Bernstein movie yet?
Yes.
Maestro.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, I started it, and then it went to black and white, and I was like, oh, this is a film. It's not a movie. And that's fine. But, when you have two kids, and they're both in soccer, you got to, have time and a mind to watch a film, you know? And so I got through a little bit of it, and I was like, when's the part where he berates Jose Carreras? and they weren't getting to that, and then I'm sorry, I watched the first 20 minutes. That was all I got to.
I mean, that kind of says something, though. Possibly. Maybe more than you were just sleepy.
It's true.
But Nick, did you enjoy part of it?
I feel like I'm one of the only people who liked it.
Why'd you like it? Tell me.
I thought it was a good story. I thought Bradley Cooper was excellent. Obviously, I mean, so many people are upset that, why didn't they cover more of his musical theater stuff, or more of his whatever experiences as conductor around the world? And it's they focused on kind of one area of his life, but it's I mean, you can't tell anybody's whole life ever, you know. Even when they did Lincoln, for example, they didn't talk about that he was a professional wrestler, Abraham Lincoln. You know, it's someone could get pissed about that, I suppose.
I would watch that movie.
Just Abe Lincoln in a stove. What do they call it? Stovepipe hat wrestling.
I wonder what his nickname was.
I wonder if we could do an AI wrestling match of Abraham Lincoln versus the Iron Sheik, and just see what happens. Who would win
in an American flag bodysuit?
Yeah.
I have a worse one: Abraham Lincoln and FDR.
That's tough. Franklin Delano Romanowski.
Chris, you're going to see how much I have to edit this episode now that you're actually recording live with us.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays it's so unfair to be bad good. You know, it's something in the middle for me. You know, obviously, I think it's such an awesome thing that this person's life was, brought more to the fold a little bit to pop culture nowadays. It was, by every account, by so many musician friends, Bradley Cooper did his homework. I mean, he spent so many years going to concerts, and you just kept hearing stories about him going to concerts and shadowing conductors. So I do believe he respected him and took it seriously. I think seeing the Rotten Tomatoes score of 80, I think is like, I'm okay with that. Like, for me, it was, I thought it was very stylized. They did a good job of like creating the fashion, the culture, the feeling of it. I think they shot it on film, and he like reshot a lot of those famous scenes that we've seen videos of. Some of the complaints were, sometimes the language, I had to like turn on subtitles like 20 minutes in because there's just so much mumbling and fast talking through cigarettes. You can't. I thought the chain smoking like cigarette affectation was a little over the top at times.
I don't know. I think that was pretty accurate. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen a video where he doesn't have a cigarette, like a real video.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of like was okay with it. It took me a while to like let go of like I'm watching Bradley Cooper, but eventually I was able to. But yeah, I mean, the complaints I read, I kind of agree with. It's like, yeah, as musicians, we kind of watch it like a little biased, and we want all these things to happen, but like, they really chose to focus on his like life and like his struggles with, being publicly homosexual. And it was just like, I just didn't think that was the most interesting part of his life. And that's how I felt like what I read about this kind of being Oscar bait and making it more for these dramatic situations that he could play out rather than the extreme cultural and musical impact he made on society, which it only kind of talked adjacently, but I didn't really feel some overarching power of music, or I just wasn't that interested in like, okay, his wife was sick. Yes, obviously terrible, but that story's not that interesting to me as far. And I think they took for granted how many people nowadays are aware of Bernstein. A lot of people know who he is, of course, but in the mass cultural canon, I think, I don't know. And then like conducting a scene, I don't know. I'll never watch. He did a really good impression, but if I was like sitting in the orchestra watching that, I don't think that would have that would have driven me crazy. But the biggest complaint, obviously, the biggest failure in the film, which was just shocking to me, is not one LG for Mippy 2 reference.
Yeah, right. And this is it again where I was kind of like, there were two things I was looking for. Well, first of all, it was black and white. And again, kids, tired dad brain, I need like punch action. This is what I need in my life to keep my attention. But like, no berating of famous international tenors. And then, yeah, no like aleatoric kind of unaccompanied trombone solo. It's only 2.5 minutes. How long was the runtime? Like 2 hours, 27 minutes. They could have fit that.
They could have started with it and ended with it and maybe put it in the middle. Showing the dog wagging its tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, famously, Bernstein on his deathbed, when he was his final words were, "Don't let Elegy for Mippy get lost in the vast trombone musical canon."
Yeah. I heard that 6 months after he passed, that Ralph Sauer actually conducted a seance, and from beyond the grave, Bernstein told him that you swing the 16th notes in Elegy for Mippy.
Not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know that Ralph Sauer conducted seances. But he was West Coast.
Yeah, that's right. Los Angeles, there's crystals, there's all kinds of things going on out there.
Yeah, he summers in Sedona to get closer to the vortexes.
Yeah.
He's a soothsayer.
Yeah, but that's how you learn how to interpret 16th notes in Bernstein's music. Otherwise, we're afloat, adrift on a sea of ignorance.
And Nick, you pointed out, Nick, they did a really nice showing of Fancy Free, that sailor bar scene in Fancy Free, which was really cool.
Yep.
I liked how they had Bradley Cooper, like, you couldn't even tell. All of a sudden, he was one of the dancers. I thought that was pretty cool.
And he's got dancer's feet. Look at him.
Man.
But yeah, they did a good job showing like the fame orbit at the end of how like bigger, larger than life he was, and how he's just used to being, center of attention. And it's like, yeah, you have to be a little narcissistic like that when you're constantly being treated like that. But you had that huge juxtaposition of like the home life of like, hey, you're the dad here and you need to be the dad and the husband. And
yeah. So I don't know. I liked it.
Nick doesn't want to get into this. I liked it. Stop talking. Stop complaining.
I mean,
I should
what
finish
is
it.
what is this? A film podcast?
Dude, I love movies. Well, you're gonna love our next topic, Nick.
I love movies too. I love them.
Oh, and also our friend Dave Nelson, who's been on the podcast, played in the film. or at least acted holding a trombone in the film in one of the New York orchestra scenes. And I think also the big Mahler too was the London Symphony at the end.
Well, that was juxtaposed, right?
Well, there's two different like big orchestra scenes, I think, and so there was a New York.
The Mahler 2 one. I think they filmed Bradley Cooper alone and then an orchestra.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think you're right though. It was London. That was the orchestra.
Interesting. Well, transitioning to a much more serious topic, Chris and I have been talking about this for a while, and Nick, I don't think I could have two better experts for this topic, but I thought it would be really important to list our top 5 cheap beers.
Okay. I'm locked and loaded. I'm ready.
Living in, one of the great brewer states. Can I say great brewer states of Michigan?
We come from a land of hops and yeast and coopers and barley.
Isn't it like the most breweries per capita or something?
In Grand Rapids?
In like Michigan, in the state of Michigan?
It might be the state. I know at least at the time when I lived in Fort Collins, Colorado, which was until that was the most breweries per capita for a city. When I lived there was like 120,000 people and 22 breweries.
Wow.
Jeez.
But Michigan, it might be the winner for the state. I know Wisconsin has the most bars per capita.
Yeah, what else are you going to do in Wisconsin?
Exactly, yeah. But we're talking craft breweries. Cheap beer, although I might prove this wrong, tends to not come from the craft brewery.
So what do you think, Nick? Do you think we should all say like everyone should just do their 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or we should like rotate and everyone do their 5, then their 4?
I think I'll do the 5, I'll do the 4. Yeah, like that.
Okay, so I'll lead off. My number 5. Just it's always solid. It was a staple during my grad school days. I like a good Labatt Blue.
Well, from our neighbors up north, the apartment above a really good house party.
You
can find it in a lot of places.
Labatt, that's one that's close to my heart from the 5 years I lived in Rochester, because that was a go-to beer in Rochester, New York. But yeah, it's one that has flavor. You got to hand it to that.
Nice. What's your 5th?
Good old Miller Lite.
Nice.
I like it. It's my go-to boat beer. Crisp. You don't have to think about it. It's basically carbonated, slightly flavored water.
Boat beer.
And it's superior to the other leading competitor by a mile, which is Bud Light, of course.
That's true.
Like Miller Lite, far superior.
So out of Bud Light, Coors Light, Miller Lite, you're putting Miller Lite top of that?
Yep.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay in the same area, but not light. I prefer myself a Coors Banquet.
From Golden, Colorado.
The Banquet beer.
Coors Banquet beer. Yeah, it's a good one. It has tastes like beer. You can, and then I'll be honest that you feel a little bit better. You can kind of inflate your own little cheap beer ego because you're like, yeah, I'm having Coors Banquet right now.
Of the 3 main flagship beers, which you see way less of them in like a bar than the light versions. Like the light versions are always at the bar, but like Coors Original, Miller Genuine Draft, and Budweiser, which do you think tastes best?
I mean, I gave it my number 5 on my list. It's Coors for me all the way.
I think that is Poppycock and Balderdash.
Language.
I am a fan of a Bud Heavy.
Bud Heavy.
Is that what you call them? Bud Heavy? I've never heard that.
That my buddy Gray calls them to differentiate from a Bud Light. You got a Bud Heavy.
Oh my God,
that's great. I learned that from my friend Charlie Halloran, who's in like top trombone player in New Orleans now.
Oh,
but
cool.
He's from St. Louis, and he always called it a Bud Heavy, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's a perfect name.
Yeah,
it's much better than a Bud Light. That's for sure.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
Number 4. I'll have to go with another pretty major one, Miller High Life. Just too much history. Too much history. You can buy the 30-pack of cans. It's just there for you.
I have a story about Miller High Life.
I want to hear it.
So it's the champagne of beers, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
We were drinking them when I was in college, and my sister was visiting, and she leans to me, and she doesn't drink like at all, and she leans to me and she goes, is it really made with champagne? And I was like,
Yes.
Emily, don't say that out loud to anyone else.
Oh, you missed a big opportunity there.
Oh, I'd already roasted her enough that day. She deserved a break.
You can only call it that if it's from the Champagne region of France.
Oh, that's
it's
true.
only from the Miller Brewery in France.
It's a sparkling. Yes.
It's their only import.
Well, I mean, you have one of those, and it's all about terroir, or whatever that. You have a champagne of beer, you can taste the landscape.
Yep. Yeah, you can really taste the industrial complex.
Yeah, like these hops were definitely like fertilized by a herd of free range sheep off the New Jersey Turnpike. Definitely what happened.
Oh boy.
My turn. Okay. I'm going way out of this one. I guarantee it's not on any of your lists, but it is an excellent beer. Stroh's.
Nice. Very nice.
Okay.
Stroh's made a big comeback a couple years ago, and I picked me up a 12-pack, and I was like, this is a delightful beer.
Right on.
When you're watching a football game and you don't want to sit around thinking about the beer, that brings me to another point is I used to homebrew, and the guy who owned the only homebrew shop in San Francisco when I lived there had like a YouTube channel. Grizz, R.I.P. Grizz, he died. But crazy old man with dreadlocks that were down to the floor and dragged behind him.
That's commitment.
Whoa.
They were unbelievable and gross. But someone asked him, he was like, someone asked me what my favorite beer is. And I tell them, my favorite beer is the one that you drink, and then you drink another of the same one. And about halfway through that one, you go, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want something that punches me in the face. I mean, I can appreciate it, but it's not going to be my favorite beer. I want something that it's just so enjoyable you almost forget that you're drinking it.
Stroh's.
I like to give I got to hand it to Stroh's too for making it through Prohibition by pivoting to the ice cream industry.
Yeah.
Really?
Bravo to them. They figured it out.
Stroh.
Did you just hit us with a Chris Van Hoff fun fact?
Fun fact.
Man.
Yeah.
A CVHFF?
That's right. Yep.
And Nick, when you said I used to homebrew, I was like, bro, do you even homebrew?
Yeah, exactly. What if yo-yoing became like the fad thing and someone's like, bro, do you even yaw?
If you need to abbreviate yo-yo, that's like...
Yeah. Bro, do you yaw? All right, CVH.
Number 4. All right, so this one for me, this is like a personal thing. I spent a lot of time, again, in Western New York, the 5 years I lived there, which was an important formative beer period for me. And it's not Genesee. And I'll tell you why it's nothing from Jenny, because one time we went camping on the Mohawk River, just kind of outside of Utica, New York, and we got a bunch of Jenny cream ale, and I had a very bad experience. We went to Walmart and bought some floaties and tried to float down the river, and it ended poorly. So Jenny cream ale and I, we have a bad time. No, for me, Sebastian, you'll like this, living where you do, it's Yingling.
Oh,
Yingling.
Get out of here with that.
No, but here's the thing.
I just had an argument about Yingling last night.
But it's a specific kind of a thing. So this is what it has to be is it's one of two things. Either you drink it warm out of the can because nothing matters and you just need booze ASAP, or ice cold in a frosty glass. And I'm talking this is like all kidding aside, it's a landscape thing for me. There's this bar in just outside Bloomfield, New York, just south of the Thruway, where we used to go and drink, called The Cottage. And you get a frosty glass with ice cold Yingling out of the draft. Chef's kiss. Nothing beats it. So that's it for me. Like, I'm not going to go buy some Yingling, but for me, it's like, yeah, all right, that's one that I'll have because it brings me back to a time and place. That was a happy thing. So
It's an interesting one.
Nick, what was your argument?
America's oldest brewery, by the way. America's oldest brewery.
Nick, what was your beef with Yingling?
I mean, it just kind of tastes like ram's piss. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's like cilantro. Like to you, it tastes like that.
Interesting.
But to me, it tastes like some like
Memories.
well, I don't know what I don't know what I'm allowed to say on this podcast.
Do you get it there in Michigan though, right? Or is it more local?
You can get it everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very above average cheap beer. It's just I've had it so much here that I've had it in a lot of varying. Like it needs to be fresh, it needs to be cold. And a lot of bars have like held on to it for a while. And when you have bad Yingling or Yingling that you can tell it's been there a while, it is not good.
It gets skunky. It's like
Yeah.
Rolling Rock gets skunky too.
Yeah.
Is that your next favorite, Rolling Rock?
I'm going to call it right now. I think Sebastian and I are going to have the same number one.
That's probably true. It's probably true. We're gonna
because we both. I mean, we could say it right now together, but I'm not going to.
We need to get a sponsorship, but that's the real reason behind this episode. You know, because a beer company really needs to advertise with the Trombone podcast.
I know. I've been trying. I tag them online. I'm trying to be a Bells performing artist, and they never reply.
They don't know that they need you yet,
irritating.
Chris.
Yeah, I think it's more I need them at this point. So.
And then some people have some issues with the political ties with Yingling too, but we don't have to get into that.
Oh
Big
Damn it.
donors.
Okay, well, all right. Maybe I got to
Can't change it.
Fine.
Locked
My number four sucks. But I told you why. The Cottage Inn, Bloomfield, New York.
You have a personal experience. That's special.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
That's why.
And then Nick's is like, yeah, it tastes like ram's fist. So my number 3, I was a huge Corona fan for a long time. I don't know why, it's just always smooth. I really like it. But I feel like I elevated, even though it's a lot different, to Pacifico being one of my favorite crisp, warm summer day beers.
That's a fantastic
Mexican
beer.
lager.
With a little lime.
It is a good one.
Goes well with tacos.
I don't know if it's not quite a cheap beer. It's a cheaper beer.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, I put it
Who
like...
brews Pacifico? Is that?
Who owns it?
It's probably
Yeah.
one of the conglomerates, I'm sure.
Probably. I'm looking.
I'm sure.
I need to know.
Sure, there's a tree with like only 3 corporations that own every single beer.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So my number 3, along the same path, we're going south of the border, baby.
Yeah.
We're going with Dos Equis.
Nice. There's a couple different ones, right?
Yeah. Which one, Nick?
I like the amber, classic.
Yep.
Green bottle, classic. Lime, salt. Yeah. Maybe you could even make like a what do you call? You put a little grenadine in it. You ever done that?
Whoa! Now you're getting fancy.
It's very interesting.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember what they call it though.
Huh. Okay.
It's very nice.
Good one. This is interesting because we're all kind of going in the same direction, and I apologize, but I'm going to be very broad in my number 3. Having traveled throughout Central and South America,
Flex.
I'm going to say any beer from South America, period. Because the way you drink it is ice cold, and it's always out of a gigantic 1-liter bottle with a bunch of other people. And it's like, no matter what, it always hits the spot. It's always the perfect beer.
There's a beer from Singapore, Tiger. And the way that they drink in Malaysia and Singapore is they actually pour it over ice. And at first people are, oh, that's crazy. But have you ever had a Michelada before?
Yeah, it's like same thing.
Well, they pour over ice with tomato juice. I mean, it's like it's iced down, it's diluted, it's flavored. It's like, what's the difference? And when you're in Singapore and it's 100 trillion degrees, it tastes pretty damn good to have like
it's refreshing
on ice.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that hence any South American beer. Because
right. Ice
when
cold.
It's hot and gross, and then you're with other trombone players, perfect. Can't be. With one exception, and the one beer that I won't drink from South America is Brahma from Brazil.
Oh yeah,
Talk about Ram's piss.
Shots.
That's like
bad.
Fired.
That's like sweaty Brazilian Ram's piss. It's bad.
There's that one. What's the one from Costa Rica? Imperial? Is it Imperial?
Imperial, yeah, with the black eagle on it.
Yeah, that's a good beer.
That's a very good beer. Yeah.
You ever have Prestige from Haiti? I should have included that one.
I think I've had it at like a Caribbean restaurant.
It's basically like the only beer you'll see there. But it's it's like it's in a red stripe bottle. It's like tastes very similar.
Man, maybe I should have said red stripe. Red stripe.
That's good.
That is good on the beach.
This is a good discussion. Yeah. This is a good discussion app. And
I like how our number 3, they all basically aligned though. It's basically
we went south of the border. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
we're like, get out of America. And Chris and I had a shared experience, just different years of going to Trombonanza in Argentina.
All right.
Santa Fe.
In Santa Fe. And something I always found, I mean, I would just chuckle every time when they asked you what beer you wanted. Do you remember what they called IPAs?
IPAs?
IPA.
Yeah. Would you like Tina's IPA? And I think like Ambers were like Rubia.
Yeah. I have tried to enjoy craft beer in South America, and it always just tastes like the end of a long game of telephone. Like
Someone explained
IPA
it
has
over
been,
the phone,
yeah, it's been described and translated many times. And it's like, no, not quite. Just go with the other stuff.
Drink the wine and eat the meat there.
Yeah.
What are we on? Number 2?
Number two.
Yeah.
Number 2 is one of my favorites. Anytime I see it, I will order it. I don't see it very often. Sometimes it's in that hipster beer category. I love how the artwork looks on the can. It is a pork slap.
Yes.
I don't know
Love
if I've ever
pork
had
slap.
a pork slap.
Such a good beer.
You should Google
Let
image
me look
search
this
it.
up. Yeah.
It's a classic.
It's
two naked pigs like jumping in the air and slapping their bellies together.
From Butternut.
Butternuts.
From Butternuts. Right?
That's a great
Big
beer.
fan.
That's the name of the brewery.
Big fan.
Yeah, you can just go can after can of that.
Oh, that's from New York. I should go to the brewery.
Where is it?
Yeah.
It's let me look here. It's middle of freaking nowhere.
That checks out.
It is. I mean, it's so far off the highway. I'm still zooming out. I have no idea.
That's how you know it's in the middle of nowhere.
Holy! It's like it's the closest city's Schenectady.
Oh wow!
So I guess it's like west of Albany by like an hour. It looks like.
Is that where we're gonna have our next trombone retreat?
Oh, dude, abso-freaking-lutely.
You gotta go. You guys gotta go to the Pork Slap Brewery. That'd be amazing.
It's like one guy in there, just like he hasn't had a guest in years. It's like the Indiana Jones when you discover the Holy Grail. Oh, come in.
I went.
He gives you a dusty can.
Yeah.
You take a swig. He says, "You have chosen wisely."
He grabs the glass and he's like, "Oh, that's good." Pours the beer in it. I went to a wine store with my wife in the Catskills. This was like 7 years ago, and we walked in, and this wine store looks like it had just been robbed. I mean, there was like no selection of anything. So we pick, the only bottle of wine that is possibly drinkable. And we're not picky about wine at all. I'm talking about like a wine that's made from grapes. That was our standard. And so we pick out this bottle of wine, bring it up to the register, and the guy standing there, and he's like, "I'm surprised you found anything at all."
What?
I was like, really? He's like, really? He goes, yeah, nothing in here is very good. It's like, wow, your heart's really not in it, is it?
Support small business owners.
No.
Monsieur, do you have the Boone's Farm blue varietal?
I enjoyed the strawberry daiquiri sunrise.
Do you have the new Ecto Cooler Boone's Farm?
I would legit drink that.
Oh, I would drink the shit out of that. Yeah.
One of my roommates in San Francisco, we discovered that neither one of us had Mad Dog 2020 before. Have you guys had that before?
Malt liquor.
It's like a sweetened malt liquor.
Oof.
And we had just eaten lunch, and we were like, let's get a couple bottles and try them, And each of us had like a quarter of them. And both of us got like gut rot, and we had to go to bed. And this was like 1 in the afternoon. Never again.
We learn. We make decisions, and we learn from them.
Yeah, never again.
What's your number 2, Nick?
My number 2 is the classic Blue Ribbon award-winning Pabst Blue Ribbon.
It won a contest like once, like a local contest like forever ago.
1872.
Like,
yeah,
this is our branding.
Yeah.
What do you like about Pabst?
I think it's in some ways the quintessential cheap beer, but it's not the best one. That used to be my number 1, Pabst Blue Ribbon. But it's cheap. It tastes like something. Doesn't taste like much, but it's just a very agreeable beer.
They really own that cheap beer demographic. They've like gotten their distribution crazy, and it's like cool to have it, and it's non-pretentious to drink it. I don't love the taste. I actually have one in my fridge right now. I think you bought it, Nick. I think it's been here since you were here.
That's very possible.
Man, all right, so you say it's a very agreeable beer. It's my number 2 as well.
Whoa! Synergy.
Yeah.
Synergy.
Yeah.
I love me a Pibber. It's the one beer I really don't feel bad drinking the 16-ounce cans too.
Oh,
like
big
I don't know.
boys.
Yeah, that's right. And I agree with Nick. It's like like if an alien landed and they'd had no experience of the human life or Earth or anything, and they just pointed to the word beer. You could give them a PBR, and that pretty broadly defines beer, I think. I mean, like at least as far as like what we can get in this country.
Right. It's the
beer,
American lager.
Yeah. It's nothing more. It's good, and like I feel like it used to be a hipster thing, and then somehow it survived the hipster thing, and it's now anybody can drink it. You don't have to be cool.
How much does a PBR cost at like a Michigan, like normal dive bar?
I mean,
well, the best is in. Sorry, this isn't in Michigan, but in Muncie, there's a place called Savages, and it's $1.50.
Oh man,
for a PBR, or they have $4 PBR pint days once a week, or pitcher days.
Oh, I was going to say $4 pints. That's not really
for a pitcher.
There's your recruiting pitch for Ball State right there.
Oh yeah, there's nothing to do except drink PBR and practice. That's why you should go to school at Ball State.
And you won't lose any money.
That's right.
The pub in Whitehall where the retreat is, Pub 111, they have normally I think it's $2 PBRs, and one day a week they're $1. And you go there on that day, and all the people getting off their factory shift, they just line them up at the bar, you know.
I think it's in my opinion, it's maybe best accompanied at a bar, at least not at home, but at a bar with just a shot of Jim Beam.
Oh,
so are you talking about an actual Boilermaker or a deconstructed Boilermaker?
No, deconstructed, like shot of Jim Beam, boom, and then enjoy the Pibber for the remainder. Yeah,
they do have synergy. They do.
Yeah.
Well, since Nick and I's are the same, Chris, why don't you go ahead and say your number 1?
Okay, so now you said best cheap beer,
yes.
So but weirdly, I'm not going macro brewer on this. I'm going with a craft brewery, but one that is from my beloved home state of Michigan, and they create a beer that has all the great qualities of cheap beer, but is significantly better. And it's from Schwartz Brewing in Bel Air, Michigan, and it's called Locals Light.
Wow.
And the reason I love that beer is because you can drink it all year. It's perfect. It's like camping, sports ball, middle of the winter. It's a light American lager, but it's really good. And you can get like at least at my local liquor store here in Indianapolis, you can get a 24-pack for $18.
I'm no mathematician.
So that's a pretty good deal.
It's from like a real brewery, but it's cheap, so it qualifies, I think. And that beer, I'll advocate for that beer because it's real
Schwartz
good.
is a fantastic brewery too.
Yeah, I love Schwartz.
That's like
great hang, good place to go.
Back to your previous one, Chris, I wanted to mention this. Our old principal trombonist, Rick Chamberlain, rest in peace. We used to go to this dive bar that doesn't exist anymore near Lincoln Center. And first time I go in with him, he goes in and he looks at the bartender and he goes like this.
Thumb up, thumb down.
You know what that means?
No idea.
And the bartender knew it right away. It's like, and I was like, what is that? And he was like, a shot and a beer.
Whoa.
That's the beer. That's the shot. And
that could be a handshake.
Yeah.
You put them together with your buddy.
And he was surprised I didn't know that. But apparently, like, I don't know, when he was growing up, that was the thing. When you didn't have so much selection either. It's just like, whatever whiskey, whatever beer. You know, just give me something.
Shot and a beer.
Yeah.
Do you think that would work at... I think the bartender needs to be at least over the age of like 55 for that handshake.
Oh, yeah. The bartender was like an old, crusty bartender.
He's like, I got you.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, we are to our number 1, and the audience is on the edge of their seat,
waiting with bated breath.
And I don't think anyone that doesn't know us directly would guess this, but the number 1 beer, and we haven't even communicated this yet, but I assume it's the same one. Would you like to do the honors, Nick?
Our number 1 beer is Hams.
Let's go.
The Ham's House. Ham's Podcast.
This is a Ham's podcast. This is a Ham's house. HAMM.
Hands down.
HAMM. Yep.
What's their slogan?
It is a tasty beer, and it is so freaking cheap. It's like, I don't know how they make money. Like, the aluminum itself must cost more than the beer. I mean, it's crazy.
From the land of sky
Hands is
blue
really
waters.
good. I recently had a really fantastic evening at a spot that will remain anonymous for professional
Yeah,
reasons.
you don't want the groupies to show.
But with my buddy Rich Dole, who's a great bass trombone player here in Indianapolis, he and I closed a spot down with nothing but hams.
That's amazing.
That is a high quality.
Right?
That's bravo.
For how
gentlemen.
good it
That's very
tastes and how cheap it is. It's like, I feel like anyone that catches on to the secret. I mean, I have a drive-through beer place like a couple blocks from my house that will just like throw a 30-pack in the back of your car for, I think it's something in the 20s. It's nothing.
So good.
Sebastian introduced me to the Hams. We were at the retreat, and we were shopping at the local grocer, and he just nonchalantly throws a 30-pack of hams in the cart, and I was like, what the hell is that? And Sebastian gave me that look, the look I've only seen twice in my life from John Sebastian Vera.
I don't want to
And
know
I
what
knew-
the other one was.
I knew I must trust this man.
And they have some amazing old like branding and artwork that's really awesome.
Well, there's an antique store next to a brewery in Montague. The antique store is now gone, but during the pandemic, before it disappeared, I went in there shopping around, and I found a vintage Hams mug. It's the handle, beautiful, and that was a house gift for our friend Sebastian here.
You know, I drank out of that mug last night while the soul left my body watching the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, that was I was playing a show, and the game started pretty much like right when the second half of the opera started, and the second half is like it's like an hour and 40. So I turned on my phone when the show was over and it was halftime. I mean, it was fun in the locker room. Everyone had the same thing happen. It's like we turn on our phones and everyone's like, "Holy shit! Oh my god, the Cowboys are losing!" You know
who the least shocked people are deep down are Cowboys fans, because we accept high expectations. You know, I'd be okay if like we're just terrible for a decade's one thing and you just like kind of lose interest. But the amount of hype and the amount they get you to believe every single year, we've won 12 games the last 3 years. They just always fold when it matters. And it's a painful existence. But I am happy for your Lions to win their first playoff game in a long time.
elated.
That's great for the city.
Elated. Yeah, I had some friends
I'm
over.
not even a football fan, and I'm excited.
I had a friend over from the great state of Michigan watching some Lions last night, getting rowdy. I mean, because no matter the outcome, of course, I'm very happy that they won. You know, I would have been okay if they lost, not as okay, but it was a close game. It was a really, really close game. That Cowboys game was frustrating as hell because I just hate seeing any game that in the playoffs that's a total blowout like that. It just sucks to watch.
Yeah, I love our quarterback, but he's either amazing or you can tell when he's nervous, when he's off, and like as a performing musician, like I have empathy. You know, it's like when you're off or if you're really nervous, everything feels different. You know, and it's like you can't be your best self. But it's not a good track record. But welcome back to the Third Coast. Welcome back to the Football Retreat podcast, beer podcast. Thank you for your top 5. I think we nailed it. I think we got all the correct answers.
There's only one wrong answer.
Yeah, I feel bad about mine.
Don't feel bad.
Hey, there's a
Feel
lot
bad,
of people who
'cause-
love Yingling.
I mean, that brings up the whole debate of like, can you separate the art from the artist? Are you not allowed to enjoy Michael Jackson songs if you like think maybe any of those things that were said about him are true? I don't know.
Well, yeah, and you know,
Ashton, how hard do you
think-
want to edit this? I could tell some Michael Jackson jokes.
I hate you so much. If you want this to ever come out.
So Michael Jackson and Richard Wagner walk into a bar and order a Yingling.
There's some meat on that bone. That fruit is worth a squeeze, you know.
So I have a quick Quora question. Wow, that was alliteration, and I did
Quick core question.
Quora.
QQQ.
A Q cubed.
Triple Q.
Chris, are you familiar with the majesty that is Quora?
Quora. I think it's something on an internet. Is that correct?
It's like it replaced Yahoo Answers. It's where you can just ask questions to the universe and maybe someone will answer.
It's the place that proves that indeed there are such thing as dumb questions.
Oh, good. Okay.
This one's fairly interesting though. I searched the depths for weird trombone questions, but I found this one. So if you strum a guitar, you hit a drum, what do you do with the trombone?
You strum a guitar, you hit a drum.
I mean, you could say you slide one, I guess. That's the easy effervesce.
You blast a bone.
Buzz. Well, you activate the air column.
Oh, that's...
I can only imagine there are some answers like that, some responses that are like, well, first you set up your own machine.
I don't know the answer.
We need our verb.
There was a guy at.
I do need
I don't. What is the trombone verb? How do you verb trombone?
I mean, you slide.
Slide seems like the safest, easiest answer.
Blast.
Or we could just make up like strum. That's not a word. Let's just make up a verb.
Yeah, strum is definitely made up.
Let's trum a trombone.
Trum. Trum. You trum the trombone.
I gotta go trum it out.
That's one letter away from getting a little political. That's the problem there.
Well then, okay, you Obama trombone.
You Obama trombone.
Thanks, Obama.
What about Van Buren? Like, let's go back to the presidents.
You Grover Cleveland
Van Buren. Yeah. Grover. You Grover? Grover?
Oh.
Grover Cleveland?
What a great name Grover is.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody uses that anymore. I feel like that's only admissible if you have, like, for a cat these days.
I bet you there's a kid in Brooklyn who has two parents and hyphenated last name and definitely named Grover and is allergic to anything that casts a shadow.
Yeah, his middle name is Serendipity or something.
Spelled with a Z. You got to figure out where that Z is,
Yeah.
There's just a
Somebody
random
at work,
Z in there.
Yeah, exactly. The Z is silent.
My name's
it's
Nicholas.
Between the I and the P of Serendipity.
Yeah. Well, I think...
Speaking like a dumb trombone question, somebody at work asked me last week, who's like at Ball State, who's not, he's like a scientist or something, like an actual academic, not like me. And he goes, I never heard this one before. He said, hey, I got a question. Is the trombone the instrument that's the easiest to tell if it's being played wrong?
Whoa, that's actually a really good question.
And what his rationale was, he's like, I just went to my kid's 5th grade band concert. And he's like, I knew that all those trombones were wrong because they were not moving their slides at the same time.
That is, yeah.
Well,
and so with that explanation, I was like, yeah, I think you're right.
But if they're all playing the same part, absolutely.
Well, that's what he was saying. He's like, I used to play trumpet, and he's like, 5th grade band, they're not doing 3-part harmony in the trombone section.
They're not doing transcriptions of Gesualdo music.
Yeah, there's no motets up in here, like
6-part motets.
Yeah, visually we can't really hide because it, like, the second that you make the slide start going the wrong direction, and then you're like, oh no, it's flat, and then you try to change it last second. I mean, everyone can see that. I
was watching the NCAA tournament a couple years ago in Western Michigan, my alma mater. Yeah. WMU, go Broncos. They were in the tournament, and they show the pep band, and here's this young man in the trombone section of the Western Michigan University pep band. They're playing the fight song, which is in E flat major. Homeboy plays second position for a D.
It's unacceptable.
And I'm like, bro.
Was he playing an alto trombone?
It was not a secondary dominant, nerd. It was like, I know the line. It's a descending scale.
Dr. Chris Van Hoff.
Yeah, it's over a 4-chord. It's a Lydian sound, and like this second. Come on, bro.
Well, if we're using Schenkerian analysis, then
yeah, let's Schenkerize the WMU fight song.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. What if someone presents their thesis and it's Shankarian analysis of college football fight songs.
Hey, you're a professor at Manus. That's like the bastion of Shankarian analysis.
Yeah, it is. Go Narwhals.
Go Narwhals. I was going to just say like a general go Cats when you mentioned Ball State. I think I'm just going to, anytime someone mentions their college, I'm just going to be like, go Cats.
Go Cats. No, we're the Cardinals. Chirp, chirp is our thing.
That is so lame.
That's intimidating.
Very threatening.
That's intimidating. Wow.
Yeah, Cardinals is a fine name, but chirp, chirp, really? How about like peck your eyes out?
Right. Yeah. Shit on your car. Like something.
Exactly.
The car, I mean, Stanford has made it more like dominating by just making it singular. The Stanford Cardinal.
The Cardinal.
And then their mascot is a tree, which my cousin was the mascot for Stanford.
Wow.
Get out.
Wow.
He was the tree.
Dream big.
That's the dream.
Yep. And the thing is, Stanford, they're the mascot. You apply for it, try out for it, and part of it is you make your own costume. Every mascot has a different costume. It's all a tree, but it's homemade, and that's part of the judging process. Is how like unique.
Whoa.
Yeah. He was on an ESPN commercial, one where they had like the offices in Connecticut, and he was like there dressed as the tree. They flew him in from Stanford to Connecticut. Yeah.
I didn't know that you knew a celebrity, Nick.
They flew him from Stanford to Stanford.
Whoa.
Get it?
Wait, could you say that again?
Stanford to Stamford. Connecticut? Anyone?
Wait,
All
could
right.
you say that again?
They
So, Christopher.
Yeah.
Can I call you Christopher? Christopher.
No. Dr. Van Hook.
Doctor.
Can I call you Stove?
That's a
Ofer,
I'll take that.
bro. What's any news you'd like to announce with the festival, International Trombone Festival?
Oh yeah. Well, it is happening slightly earlier in the summer than it has in years past. This year's edition is going to be at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. Dave Begnosh is our host, who's the trombone professor there at TCU. He's super easy to get there because DFW is a gigantic airport.
Or you can fly into Love Field.
Get Whataburger at the airport.
So it'll be cool. And Dave's put together a really great artist lineup. Some of the personal highlights for me that I'm excited about is the American Brass Quintet.
That's right. They're coming.
Yeah. The longtime bass trombone player, John Rojak, of course, and then their brand new tenor trombone player, Hillary Sims, is going to be there. She's also going to be playing as a solo artist, and so is John. So they're doing the quintet and solo stuff.
Cool.
Somebody who's been at ITF before, and we're really happy to have him back, is Jose Milton Vieira from Brazil, who, I think he's just one of the most beautiful players on the planet. He's incredible.
He definitely.
And then 2024 is a big year for us in the trombone world. It's the centennial year of the one and only J.J. Johnson, Indianapolis' own J.J. Johnson. So we'll be celebrating J.J.'s legacy on the evening concert with a big band backing up some great soloists. Vince Gardner from Lincoln Center, Gunther Bollmann from the Frankfurt Radio Big Band in Germany, Nick Finzer from right there in Texas. So that'll be cool. Oh, and then this is also huge, too. This is a huge thing that Dave himself helped put together. He convinced the Fort Worth Symphony to extend their season by a week at a concert that included a brand new trombone and piano double concerto by Kevin Day for your upcoming retreat guests, Peter Steiner and Constanza Hochwarter. So double concerto for trombone and piano with the orchestra, and then on the second half they're playing Mahler 5.
Whoa!
So that'll be that concert. They're playing it 3 times like a normal subscription series concert, but the Friday night one is like going to be ITF night. We'll get a block of tickets. We'll all be over there.
Can you imagine being a violinist in the Fort Worth Symphony and being like, the whole audience is trombone players because there's a festival happening down the street? It's probably just like mind blowing to them. Like, what the hell is happening?
Gotta give the people what they want.
I know.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've heard enough of the Sibelius Violin Concerto. He's had his say.
Now it's time for Kevin to have his day.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
If this concerto is anything like his other music, it is going to be on the edge of unplayable.
Yes.
But really cool.
Yeah. Our mutual friend Evan Conroy, he and I commissioned Kevin to write a duo.
Oh, that duo
us
was
for our
that
trombone
duo was crazy.
It's a badass piece, but like it's so hard. It ends 6 octaves apart.
Of course.
Like double pedal E and triple screamy E, and like
Man.
But it's really cool. You need someone to play cajon as well. But
You need some cojones?
People should play it.
I remember that. Yeah. And Renee Orth, the piece that you guys also commissioned.
Yeah.
She
wrote a great piece.
She's a friend, and she sent me the recording you guys made.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That proof piece is really cool.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I look forward to hearing the whole album.
Yeah, we need to get it on the services.
I know. When are you going to get that out there? Because
we got all the masters. It's all done. I think I just got to package it up and then figure out how to get it self-released.
Oh, I guess I should say that
Spotify.
you recorded an album with Evan Conroy, my dear friend that I went to high school with outside Detroit.
Yeah.
And now the bass trombonist of the Louisiana Phil. And you went to Western Michigan with him.
That's right.
There we go. The small
We were
world.
both in Bronco Marching Band, and we did this album of 5 pieces we commissioned, and it's finally all done. It was kind of a pandemic era project for us, but it's all done. I've just got to get it out in the world a little bit. So
Yeah, I heard your duo recital at the ITF in Columbus.
That was in Columbus, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you were like scheduled at the same time as like it was like Colin Williams recital or something. So
It
it's
was
like,
either Colin or Sasha's, or I can't remember. But anyhow,
but I was there.
I remember I went to both concerts. I was like, I listened to one piece of Colin's recital or George's, whoever, and then I went over and listened to like one piece of you guys's because I wanted to catch both. And so I heard half of each recital.
Sounded great.
Yeah, that's the challenge with the ITF. It's just
no
a
perfect
nonstop
time.
thrill ride.
Yeah.
We do get things archived so you can go back and listen to things.
Absolutely.
So that helps.
Absolutely. And we're going to make our best efforts. We're planning to be there, and we're working on scheduling another podcast. But if and when we do, we will share the news for that. It's always really fun. We've gotten to do live podcasts there the last 3 years with Joe Alessi, Christian Lindbergh, and Bill Reichenbach, and Alan Kaplan last year. And those are all up on the feed that you can listen to, but always a lot of fun. So if I can just shift to our gratitude of the week, I just wanted to take this time. We actually, the three of us were scheduled to do this podcast a few weeks ago before the new year. And it was the day that they announced that we lost Lance LaDuke. And so it just didn't feel right to record that day. But, you know, as many of you know, Lance was related to the trombone retreat for many years and a guest speaker to our camp, and we tragically lost him early. He was a professor of music entrepreneurship and euphonium at Carnegie Mellon University, and many of you know him from being on the Brass Junkies podcast, which we love. But anyone that knew him personally, just an incredibly inspirational person. Anytime you're around him, you were just so excited about, he wanted to hear about your career goals and how, if he could help you, he was one of those people that if he could help you, he would help you. He played in the River City Brass Band that I am in, and when I first started, and he was one of the big draws for me wanting to play there. And I can tell you from all of his colleagues here and many of his students that are around here, it still feels not real. It just doesn't. I think my colleague said it best. It's just like, it doesn't make sense that Lance is not here. So he had a bad fall, and, you know, especially with things getting icy now, just be careful. But, you know, when we announced this podcast, for example, Nick, you may remember this. I sent out a big newsletter announcing it. And the very first email I got immediately back was from Lance being like, congratulations on the launch. That's so cool. Like, he could be like, think we're in competition or view it that way. And he's the first person to reach out, and countless students have been inspired by him. So I just wanted to honor him a little bit. And, you know, I can't wait to hear, more of what Andy Hitz has to say on his podcast. But Lance, there's going to be a memorial March 23rd in Pittsburgh at 1 p.m. if you happen to be in the area. It's just a big celebration of life for a great, great human.
Mm. Yeah, thanks, Seb.
He's a person in our industry who you feel like you know him even if you've never met him, because of the stories that everybody speaks about him the same way. Like your words were so accurate. I never met him personally, but It's like you feel like you, even just hearing about him, like you feel good. Like, oh yeah, that's how people should be in this business, or just in life in general.
Yeah, definitely role model in a lot of ways.
And Nick, I mentioned in a post we made about him how, the first year we had him come speak at the retreat, I think he did an online session. And Nick, properly skeptical, like didn't know him very well. He's like, a euphonium player? What are you trying to do to me here? And I was like, dude, this guy's just awesome. And I wanted our camp not just to be only trombone, but like life as well, and creating a career and opening people's minds to certain paths. And he had such a unique way of creating a career, and he never did anything that he wasn't inspired by. And he gave this talk, and like Nick gave me a hug afterwards, because we all felt just so inspired after this talk, and we wanted him to be a fixture. And huge influence to the retreat, huge influence to us. It breaks my heart to say it, but so I guess I'll just formally announce here, I'm starting a position at the Cleveland Institute of Music starting this semester, and I'm going to do some chamber coaching, but I'm also going to teach a course on kind of music entrepreneurship and digital media. And I was literally planning to call him like that week to get advice, because it's very much what he does at Carnegie Mellon.
Right.
And like, I was like, I'll catch him next week. Yeah, I'm kind of overloaded. And then, you hear the news of being in the hospital. It's just another lesson of like, always tell the people around you love them. Always reach out to the people you care about. Turn off the TV show and make a call to someone you haven't talked to in a while. It's like, it's one of those kind of things. That's my news. Yeah. So things coming up, more podcasts. I have a few fun ideas. I'll be at the Texas Music Educators Conference, TMEA, coming in February. If anyone's around for that, it's always a cool spectacle. I'll be with Houghton Horns with the debut of my signature mouthpiece that I'm extremely excited about. So please come by and say hello if you're there. Chris, how can people find you?
Probably the best, although the best is probably on Instagram at CVH Trombone.
You have a great Instagram.
Although, if I'm honest, I've been taking quite a significant break from the social medias for my own mental health, and it's proving to be successful. That might continue, but I'm checking in there once in a while when some things come up. Yeah.
Soccer dad life.
What about smoke signals? Would that work?
Prefer messenger pigeon. They're more environmentally friendly. Don't contribute
true.
to global warming.
That's true.
Go
Well, they do,
audition.
but very, very little.
But yeah, like pigeon farts are not as bad as cow farts. So
Well, if you knew anything about birds, which I know quite a bit about, birds don't fart.
my understanding
Like
from
women.
the internet is that birds aren't real. They're actually
That's right. They're
surveillance.
government plants to spy on us.
Yeah. So given that, they're great for transmitting messages as well.
Yes, of course.
Go study with Chris at Ball State. It's an awesome school.
Yeah, you can find us on the Instagram too, Ball State Trombone. And then I will shamelessly plug that I'm very excited at the end of February this is really cool for me. I'm playing a concerto, a piece that I co-commissioned by Jim David. Me and Drew Leslie out at Colorado
Those are two
State
first names.
co-commissioned
Jim
it.
David.
Yeah, great piece.
So is Drew Leslie.
Yeah, true. But Jim's a great composer. This piece is super cool. And I'm playing it with the Castle High School Band in Newburgh, Indiana, which is a huge band program. And this is just cool for me. I want to say and give a shout out because it's my former student at Ball State, Grant Winternheimer, is the band director there now. So that's kind of cool for me. I get
That's
to play
awesome.
this piece and with my student conducting. I'm excited about that.
And I didn't.
It's awesome.
That's very
Good for you,
cool.
man.
And I forgot to mention, like, if you don't want to come to ITF for the trombones, come for the food,
Yeah, we are going to be in Tex-Mex land.
which is Nick's favorite,
I love Tex-Mex.
and barbecue.
I will say, when you're craving Mexican food, Tex-Mex doesn't quite get you there.
There's a difference.
It's its own thing. And
Yeah.
but there's sometimes you're just craving a plate, like a mixed plate of enchiladas and some flautas or something, and some really, really fatty refried beans. Woo, baby.
Oh, it is lunchtime.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, thanks for hanging out with us, man.
This was a treat. Thanks for the invitation. It's a lot of fun.
We should do.
Would you
this
say
again.
it's a retreat?
Wait, could you say that
The knee
again?
slapper.
In comedy, that's what they call a callback.
Heyo.
Thanks for hanging out with it. I know you have a very busy schedule with teaching and with having children. So it's always good to hang out with a real radio professional that actually knows how to do this kind of thing. So we are honored, and we look forward to hanging out in person sometime very soon.
Yeah, it'll happen. We shall make it so.
If you see Chris at the ITF, give him a hug and just say, hey, you're doing great. You're doing great. Did you get enough sleep last night?
Ooh, I got a better one. Can they go up to Chris and just grab him by the nape of the neck and go, what happened? And then walk away.
No, that doesn't need to happen because I do that to myself every morning.
That's
no, they could just drop by with some PBR or hams.
Now they know, oh man, if someone showed up with your top 5 favorite beers and just like a little pack for you.
Oh.
You know what I'd do? I'd borrow my wife's 40-ounce Stanley mug and just see what happens if you...
What's up with the Stanley mugs?
Mixture.
Why is everyone obsessed with Stanley mugs right now?
The internet.
I love the people that are trolling their wives, making fun of their Stanley mugs by like carrying around like a 40-gallon trash can with a handle on it.
Is that also that's neat about it? It's just really big.
It's insulated.
Really big. Yeah.
Hasn't that technology been around already?
It keeps your pumpkin spice latte hot.
Yeah, and they made them in cool colors, and then they got influencers to influence.
See,
and you can add little trinkets on them, right? Can you get little dangly things to hang off the straw and stuff?
Yeah, they're like the beverage version of Crocs.
I've seen these videos in Walmart of people tackling each other for like these pink Stanley mugs. I was just like, what? Why?
They're like Beanie Babies or Tickle Me Elmos or Furbies.
Okay, well, this has been the 5th position, and I wish all of you to make it a great day.
And if you're feeling off, find you some Hoff.
Ooh, like David Hasselhoff?
But don't hassle the Hoff.
Don't hassle the Hoff.
We're trying to come up with like taglines to end with. So, Chris, if you got anything hot that you just some pithy thing you want to say, feel free.
Pithy. Ooh, nice word.
Pithy. Like a
nape.
Isn't that a kind of a headgear?
Yeah.
Pith.
Yeah.
Pith. Yeah.
It's also the part of the like citrus fruit.
Yeah. I think we're nailing it right now, actually, guys. I think we got it.
We got it.
If you're seeking a citrus-flavored headgear sold to you by an academic trombone influencer,
Wow.
look no further.
Wow.
Doesn't work.
Nailed it.
Don't keep the day job.